Hey, Steelers Nation. We're back with an exclusive video packed with the latest updates on our beloved Pittsburgh Steelers. Before we dive in, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that like button. This way, you'll never miss any exclusive updates or exciting Steelers news. Aaron Rodgers leaving the Pittsburgh Steelers at the end of the season has become the type of rumor that shakes locker rooms, front offices, and entire fan bases. When whispers about a quarterback of his stature start circulating, they're never taken lightly, especially when the name is Aaron Charles Rodgers, a living legend whose career has defined an entire era of NFL play. The chatter is that his time in Pittsburgh might come to a close sooner than expected, and while nothing has been confirmed officially, the murmurs have been loud enough to turn into daily discussion across talk shows, podcasts, and sports bars all over the country. Rodgers came to the Steelers as a figure who carried not only an immense resume, but also the weight of expectations that he could change the team's trajectory, bringing veteran experience and a winning mentality to a franchise always hungry for titles. For the first months, it seemed like the fit was natural, with flashes of brilliance that reminded fans of why he was considered one of the most talented quarterbacks to ever pick up a football. But now, questions of longevity, adaptation, and direction have entered the spotlight. The situation gains even more intrigue because Rodgers has always been a polarizing character, both admired and critiqued in equal measure. His arrival in Pittsburgh was treated almost like a homecoming parade, though it was clear he wasn't a lifelong Steeler, but rather a mercenary searching for one last run at glory. The Steelers' faithful, known for their passion and loyalty, welcomed him warmly, believing he could inject new life into an offense that had lacked consistency. Rodgers himself spoke about finding renewed energy, about enjoying the challenge of leading a franchise with such rich history, and about writing a final chapter that would leave no doubt about his legacy. Yet, as weeks turned into months, the honeymoon phase began to fade, and certain cracks became visible. Chemistry with receivers wasn't always smooth, protection from the offensive line wasn't always stable, and questions about whether Rodgers could truly sustain another long campaign started creeping in. That's when the rumor mill started, quietly at first, then steadily growing louder. Maybe this was never going to be a long-term marriage. Behind the scenes, what fuels these rumors is not only performance, but also the politics and economics of the NFL, where decisions are as often driven by salary cap numbers as they are by on-field performance. Rodgers, even in the twilight of his career, commands a heavy paycheck, and for a franchise trying to balance its roster and invest in younger talent, those figures could become a point of contention. Insiders whisper that the front office may already be looking toward the draft, eyeing a quarterback of the future, and if that's the case, the Rodgers experiment might have been more of a bridge than a foundation. Coaches, players, and executives will always deny until the very last moment. But the tension is felt in small gestures, in locker room conversations, and in the way media access suddenly gets restricted when certain questions are asked. For Rodgers, a man who thrives on proving doubters wrong, this environment can either spark his competitive fire or convince him it is time to seek a final destination, somewhere that better fits his ambitions and his vision of how his career should close. Fans themselves are torn, and that split in opinion is perhaps the most fascinating part of this rumor. On one side, there are those who say Rodgers still has plenty of juice left, that his arm strength, decision-making, and ability to orchestrate late-game heroics are proof that he remains elite. On the other, there are those who argue the Steelers need to stop living in the past, that leaning on veterans is a short-term fix that prevents the team from developing a true long-term solution at quarterback. Sports radio is filled with debates. Former players are invited to give their perspectives, and highlight reels are dissected play-by-play, as if every snap could reveal whether Rodgers is staying or going. It's the type of rumor that ignites passion, because it isn't just about one player, it's about the identity of the franchise and the way fans see their team. Rodgers, whether he intended it or not, has become a mirror for Pittsburgh's internal debate about tradition versus change, loyalty versus pragmatism, and the harsh reality of how time eventually catches up with even the greatest. Rodgers himself has been coy in addressing the speculation, often giving answers that can be interpreted in multiple ways. When asked directly about his future, he tends to pivot, speaking instead about focusing on the present, about how every season is unique, and about how he prefers to control what he can control. For some, this is typical Rodgers, enigmatic, guarded, and careful not to reveal too much. For others, it is a clear sign that something is indeed brewing beneath the surface, that his words are carefully chosen because he knows the reality is leaning toward departure. In his body language, fans and journalists alike attempt to read clues. A certain tone of voice in press conferences, a lingering glance at teammates after big plays, or the way he pauses before answering questions about next year. None of it is conclusive, yet all of it fuels the narrative that Rodgers and the Steelers might soon part ways, leaving behind a complicated but memorable chapter in NFL history. If Rodgers walks away, it will not be with silence, but with echoes of debates that will rage for months. The timing of the rumor also adds layers to the story, because the Steelers are not out of contention, and Rodgers is still capable of leading them on a playoff run. That paradox, a quarterback possibly on his way out while still carrying the team's hopes, creates a dramatic tension worthy of the NFL's biggest storylines. It means every game feels like it could be the last dance, every touchdown celebrated with both joy and an undertone of sadness, as fans wonder if they are witnessing the final Rodgers-era moments in black and gold. The rumor, in a sense, becomes part of the spectacle, adding weight to each performance and making the season not just about wins and losses, but about legacy and closure. For a player like Rodgers, whose entire career has been defined by narratives of triumph, conflict, and reinvention, this chapter in Pittsburgh fits almost too perfectly into the ongoing saga. Whether he stays or goes, the story has already taken on a life of its own, and it will continue to dominate headlines until the very moment a final decision is revealed. What makes the Rodgers situation in Pittsburgh particularly fascinating is how it intertwines with the Steelers' long tradition of stability. This is a franchise that prides itself on consistency, on loyalty, and on building dynasties rooted in continuity. Quarterback legends in Pittsburgh are rare, but when they appear, they often stay for long stretches, becoming symbols of the city itself. Rodgers, however, has always been different. His career has been defined by bold decisions, public debates, and a willingness to embrace controversy if it meant staying true to his vision. That clash between the steady culture of the Steelers and Rodgers' sometimes mercurial nature was destined to create fireworks. The rumor of his potential departure reflects this very tension. Was he ever truly meant to be the long-term answer for Pittsburgh, or was it always a short-term gamble designed to buy time until the next era began? In the NFL, timing is everything, and Rodgers may have arrived just as the Steelers were beginning to consider rebuilding from the ground up. If that's the case, his presence has been both a gift and a complication, making the speculation even more believable. There's also the undeniable reality of Rodgers' age and physical durability, topics that follow him into every press conference. No one doubts his football IQ, his precision, or his ability to change the outcome of games with a single throw, but questions linger about how much longer he can sustain such demands. Steelers fans have seen glimpses of magic, but they've also seen moments of hesitation, of sacks taken that younger legs might have avoided, of passes that were just a fraction late. These moments don't erase his greatness, but they add context to why insiders believe a split is inevitable. A team like Pittsburgh cannot afford to wait until decline fully sets in. They must anticipate it and move forward before the fall becomes too sharp. Rodgers knows this better than anyone. He's been on both sides of the NFL machine, both as the young star waiting in the wings and now as the veteran whose future is constantly questioned. That dual perspective is part of why the rumors sting with truth. He understands how the game works. In the broader NFL landscape, Rodgers leaving the Steelers would not just be a team story, but a league-wide event. Whenever a quarterback of his caliber changes uniforms, the ripple effects reach far and wide. Other franchises immediately calculate whether they can make room, whether they can afford him, whether they should gamble on a legend whose window is shrinking but whose aura could elevate an entire locker room. The Jets, Raiders, or even a surprise outsider could suddenly emerge as potential suitors, each imagining Rodgers as the missing piece in their puzzle. Media outlets thrive on this type of speculation, crafting endless scenarios, trade theories, and free agency predictions. Rodgers, with his penchant for keeping people guessing, only fuels these discussions further. The idea of him wearing yet another jersey before retirement feels both shocking and completely fitting, as if his career arc was always meant to have multiple chapters in different cities. If the Steelers are indeed preparing to turn the page, the rest of the NFL will be ready to fight for the privilege of writing the next one. That possibility adds intrigue to every whisper coming out of Pittsburgh. But before we dive in, don't forget to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and hit the like button on this video. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And don't forget to share your thoughts on the news in the comments below. Inside the locker room, players remain professional, but it's impossible to ignore how a rumor of this magnitude affects dynamics. Wide receivers may wonder whether they should invest in building chemistry with Rodgers if he's leaving, or whether they should start preparing for a new quarterback style. Coaches, too, face the challenge of keeping the team focused, insisting that the goal is winning games now, not worrying about next season. Yet behind closed doors, these conversations are happening because everyone understands that the quarterback position is the heartbeat of any team. Rodgers' possible departure casts a shadow over every practice, every film session, and every play call. For veterans, it might feel like déjà vu, another reminder that nothing in the NFL lasts forever. For younger players, it's a glimpse into the business side of the game, a lesson that loyalty and performance are often outweighed by strategy and financial planning. Rodgers himself carries the weight of that knowledge on his shoulders, even if he doesn't openly show it. Every handshake, every huddle, every rallying speech now carries an unspoken question. Is this the beginning of the end? The fan base, always a central part of Pittsburgh's identity, has found itself divided not only in opinion, but in emotion. Some cling to the belief that Rodgers still has enough magic left to deliver something unforgettable, that cutting ties too soon would be a mistake they would regret. Others, though, argue that the Steelers' legacy is built not on individual stars but on the team as a whole, and that clinging to Rodgers too long could derail the next era before it even begins. In bars across the city, arguments flare over beers. In online forums, debates stretch for hundreds of comments. In stadium seats, the chants of support sometimes mix with murmurs of doubt. This kind of tension is exactly what makes sports so compelling, because it transforms games into stories and athletes into characters in an unfolding drama. Rodgers, knowingly or not, has become the lead in Pittsburgh's latest chapter, embodying the hope of one last charge and the fear of what comes after. If he leaves, there will be heartbreak, but also relief for some. If he stays, there will be faith, but also skepticism. Either way, the city will never forget this moment. As the season heads towards climax, the Rodgers rumor refuses to fade, instead growing louder with each passing week. Every touchdown feels like a farewell gift, every misstep like a sign of inevitability. The Steelers' playoff hopes add fuel to the fire, because winning deep into January could either persuade Rodgers to stay or provide the perfect stage for his exit. The story has all the elements of a sports epic, a legendary figure nearing the twilight of his career, a proud franchise at a crossroads, a fan base caught between loyalty and the future, and a league watching with anticipation. No matter what the final outcome is, one thing is certain. Rodgers has already left his mark on Pittsburgh. His time here, brief as it may ultimately be, will be remembered not just for what happened on the field, but for the emotional roller coaster it created off of it. Rumors may come and go, but this one feels different, heavier, more substantial. And when the final whistle of the season blows, the answer to the question everyone is asking will finally arrive. Is Aaron Rodgers truly leaving the Steelers behind? That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Pittsburgh Steelers, make sure to subscribe to Steelers Nation Central and give this video a like. We always look forward to hearing your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.